when you come into the recruiter's inbox, you want to be very organized
Mhm.
and intentional.
Yeah.
You want to be specific as well. Hey, I'm interested in the product manager position, job requisition number 47245.
Mm.
If this is not your position, if you don't know about it, would you mind passing my information on to the recruiter?
Yes.
And for me, yes, ma'am.
Hey everyone, this is The Reset. I'm your host, Letitia Barriola. I'm a career coach here to help you reset and rethink the way you do work. With me now is Denisha Good. She is a professional HR professional with 19 years experience, as well as recruiting experience, which is really important for this interview today. She has a business relay resume. She's helping people with the resumes and their LinkedIn. Welcome, Denisha.
Thank you. Thank you, Tish. Glad to be here.
Yeah, and you are going to help a lot of people with this, a lot of people with this, because I think LinkedIn in general, because we're talking about recruiting today, how to
Mhm.
talk to a recruiter, how to initiate a conversation, how to talk to them. A lot of this is happening on LinkedIn. And
Yes.
LinkedIn in general, some people are just baffled by it. Like they don't really, you know what I mean? They pop in on a
Mhm.
Monday, don't come back to the next Monday. Can
Absolutely.
you first just like set the scene of what is happening on LinkedIn with recruiters and with
Mhm.
people who are open for work, as they say on LinkedIn?
Yeah, so obviously the people who are open for work are looking for jobs, looking for positions, right? But LinkedIn provides a really unique space for employers, as well as their recruiters, because it allows them to pretty much showcase who they are in ways that you couldn't find out before. And I won't say that you couldn't find out in ways where you had to have a conversation with somebody. So you knew about Bank of America or Lockheed Martin or the Ford Motor Plant because you heard people talk about it. And that's where you got your idea of whether or not you wanted to work there. But LinkedIn has taken those conversations and moved them into a different space, but that also gives the employer control over what you see and how you see people. Um, and it's a really good way for it to be a two-way street as well, because as a job seeker, you can kind of look at the C-suite, see what the mission of the organization is, kind of get an idea of what they think is important by what they highlight. Um, and then from a recruiter seat, you get a much broader pool of people to tap into. You can kind of look deeper into some skills that are more transferable and not so obvious so that you can find needle and haystacks. And it's also really good for an area of recruiting that has gotten a lot more attention, and that's sourcing and pipelining. So, in other words, instead of looking for a position as it become open, you kind of build and create relationships with people, possible candidates who aren't necessarily looking or who might be
Yes.
in the job market soon. So it's where you create and nurture those relationships in a way that's easy, because we don't show up to the office and talk anymore like we used to. So this is where
Wow.
we do that.
It's interesting now that I think about it, I'm thinking about clients that I've had where they have a recruiter that they have a job, they're happy, but there's a recruiter that they can talk to at any time. Or that they had a conversation with in the past to get this job and they're still in
Mhm.
connection. And that's
Yes.
all happening on LinkedIn. And I don't know if they realize they're in a great position for when they are looking for work because they have that recruiter there and there's a relationship built.
Mhm.
So can we go to like the basics for where people are the other side of the conversation is I'm looking for a recruiter, like I need a recruiter for this particular
Right.
industry and they don't really know where to find them. So how does one go about making a relationship, making that connection with a recruiter?
Well, first of all, the beautiful thing about LinkedIn is that you can search for things and then you can narrow it down. Are you searching for a position? Are you searching for a person? Are you searching for an organization, and where? So, if you are interested in working for Target, okay, and you want to work in their corporate office, well, you can narrow it. You can search Target, people, Minnesota. And so then when you go look, it's kind of like a Boolean search, which is very much the way recruiters search. But again, now that employee has the opportunity to look for us the same way we are looking for them. Um, and so with that, you can narrow it down. And so you'll get to Target, Minnesota, and then you click on people. And so then you'll get to see people. Usually their job titles will be there and you'll get a better idea. Sometimes it just says recruiter, sometimes it just says HR, but 9 times out of 10, stay where it says recruiter and talent acquisition. Those people deal with jobs. HR is a lot of things, but recruiting and talent acquisition are the people, the jobs, the in and out of that space.
Yeah.
So that's the first thing. And then within people, you look for people with those job titles. You look for the ones that say recruiter. If you're in tech, look for tech. A lot of the times there are specialties because it makes it easier for us as the recruiter to, first of all, you can see what we deal with. And then two, it makes it easier for us because we don't do all the things. That's way too many positions to sort through. And so the beauty of being able to find the tech recruiter when you have tech positions is they're more likely to know, even if it's not their position, somebody on their team does. But that same person, yeah, they're not going to be well versed in what marketing has going on.
Okay. So we know where to find them. How do you start the conversation when you're the one looking for them? You pop in their DMs. How do you get them engaged with you?
Absolutely hop in the DMs after you've researched what jobs you're interested in. Because 9 times out of, well, I know for me, I've been in situations where the job board that I see, 1,200 positions. So when you come into the recruiter's inbox, you want to be very organized and intentional.
Yeah.
You want to be specific as well. Hey, I'm interested in a product manager position, job requisition number 47245. If this is not your position, if you don't know about it, would you mind passing my information on to the recruiter? And for me, yes, ma'am. That is not my position. I know who that is. I'll forward it on. And good, yes, absolutely. Good luck, right? But please, for the love of all that is good and holy, do not come in here saying, "Is there anything you think I'm qualified for?"
Oh gosh. So people are doing that. They're obviously doing that.
Yeah. It's like, oh, honey, I don't have time. Like no, really, because it's super easy for me to forward your information on, the specifics. But when you say, "Is there anything open?" I don't know. Is there?
Oh,
you tell me. And that's the hard part because I do have all that information, but I don't, there's not enough time to sift through. There's no way. And then sometimes, when you get to a larger organization, the corporate piece of it, data analysis or data analyst is in 11 different places. So you got to be specific. What type of data analysis? Do you want to be in IT? Do you want to be in logistics? Is it marketing? Is it e-commerce? Is it inventory? So be very intentional and specific because that'll get you to the right person. Even if you didn't pick the right person, there's enough information there. It's way easier for me to look at my system based on that information. Like, okay, yeah, that's Erica. I'll forward it to her. Now, I may not give you Erica's information, but I will make sure Erica gets yours.
I love that. This is so good. So you got to do some legwork. I love that you said throw in the job number, do the work before, put it in the DM, and most likely that will be passed along. Okay. Absolutely. So what if a recruiter jumps in your DM and you don't really know how to respond to them? And what do you say, right? Obviously it depends on the circumstance, but how does a recruiter usually approach and what's the best way to respond?
Yeah, so usually the recruiter has found this person's profile in a passive job search. So they're looking for key skills or looking for a specific job title, and this person's profile has come up. And so after the recruiter has reviewed the profile, they're like, ooh, they'd be a really good fit for this position I have. And so that's how the recruiter enters. It's like, hey, I was perusing through the job profiles for a senior analyst position, and your profile checked all the boxes. If you're interested in having a discussion with me, please use the link below to schedule some time. So a lot of this, sometimes they'll be very direct and the link will be right there. You can schedule the 30 minutes and figure out if it's a good fit. Other times, some recruiters have a little bit more in their marketing pocket. And so it'll be a video about the entire job and you can go from there. But it's really a great opportunity for you to ask them some questions right there too. So you can ask them what the pay is, if that's important to you. You can ask them about remote work real quick, fast. And so it's very information driven when they come to your inbox. They do have quite a bit right there. So you can kind of weed it out before you even get too far.
Ooh, Yeah. Now I love this. Like recruiters jumping, like they're recruiting you. They
Mhm.
already decided that they like you and that you
Yeah.
should apply.
Yeah.
I have to say, when you were describing that first couple sentences, they say, I can see how these scams, because it sounds like the marketing emails we get, like, hey, we
Mhm.
found your Instagram at, we'd
Absolutely.
like to advertise or whatever. You're like, oh, someone chose me. But you have
Yes.
to be careful because there's some scams going around with recruiting.
Absolutely.
Tell me about that.
Yeah, so there are a lot of scams going around. Everybody wants to work remotely, and so a lot of the times it looks legit. The
Hmm.
person has a really great job description too, which is also not that hard to find, to be honest. And what they're trying to do really is get your personal information. And so that's going to be one of your first flags, of
Yeah.
course. And then two, the entire job process is virtual, but it's super fast. So it's like, okay, hey, I found your resume. You're really qualified for this position. Are you interested? And you say yes. And that's okay, cool. Can you interview like tomorrow at 2? And it's
Oh.
7. Like, oh, wait a minute, or even that same day. And then so you interview, and the all the questions are in a chat. So it's not a Zoom. You're not on camera with
You know
anybody.
what? If you made it this far, you don't need to be applying for no jobs. Ain't nobody interviewing in the chat on
Yes,
LinkedIn.
absolutely. Right. It's not even on LinkedIn. It'll usually be a
Oh,
Gmail chat. It won't be because there's a
oh,
Teams chat too, even if somebody sends you a Teams and you can chat within there. But
okay.
that's who it would be. It would be Teams. It would be Microsoft Teams. It would be WebEx. It's absolutely not Gmail. I don't care how that there are plenty of corporate organizations that use G Suite, not for this kind of communication though. It's always
No.
going to be a WebEx or a Microsoft Teams invitation most of the time.
Mm, don't fall for the scam. So then
Mm.
before you know it, you're over there interviewing for the job.
Yeah.
They're
And
like, great, what's
then
the social? We need to go ahead and process.
that's exactly it. And so they'll ask for your employment information, which
Dang.
now in remote work, it is important to know, right? Because even if it's a remote position, no, there are ways for me to send my ID and things of that information to prove I am who I am, but that should be encrypted. It'll be a whole nother website, a whole nother email.
Okay.
It's usually not even coming from your recruiter's email. So that information is never going to come from the organization itself. It's encrypted. They have another vendor that works for that to make sure, because they can
Yes.
get in trouble if any of that gets lost, hacked into, or any of that nature. They're
Yeah.
never going to say, oh, yeah, just email it. Nope, not none of
No.
that. And most importantly, if the job requires equipment and they're going to send it to you, they send it to you. They don't ask you for your information. They don't ask, I'll deposit this check and then we're going to go ahead and send you. No, ma'am. Nope. No
Don't.
ham, no turkey. They send it all to you to make sure that you got it properly, to make sure it's packaged properly, so that it goes through the right protocols, through the corporate office and things of that nature. So anytime they're asking you for money and they're telling you to interview right now today, no, not
Okay.
how it works.
Listen, this has been so helpful, from how to find the right recruiter, how to approach it. That
Mhm.
recruiter would come correct with some
Yes.
information, how
Hmm.
to engage with a recruiter, knowing you've given us, like, we can ask those questions. Sure, like the cards are in our hands. How much
Hmm.
does this pay? Is this remote? Like you can ask those, because sometimes you want to,
Yeah.
in a typical interview, sometimes the advice is wait for them to bring up salary expectations, and
Yeah.
but you don't have to do that dance when they're in
Nope.
your DMs. Oh,
When
I
they
love
talk to you, yeah, when they come to you, go ahead and ask all the things because we're ready for it. Because it helps us too. We know that we're pipelining. We know that our manager is not going to be
yeah.
with, or the hiring manager is not going to choose somebody whose, salary requirements go too high. So we can cut it short. But the conversation has to be had. You got to make sure you ask.
And then make sure you watch out for the scams, because scammers
Yes.
have figured out another way. I mean, it's preying on the vulnerable, really. These are people looking for jobs and they
Absolutely.
know it. And so
Absolutely.
it's an easy in for them. So be aware of that. And thank you so much for your time. This has been so helpful. You can tell this is
Mhm.
like you live and breathe this. And I know you have
Yes.
so much more to share. So how can people either follow you or get in contact with you for your career services?
Yeah, so on Instagram and Facebook, I am Relay Resumes. My website is relayresumes.com, and you can see where all my services are. Everything from resume updates, cover letters, advice on transitioning careers, LinkedIn pages,
Yes.
salary negotiations, looking up your salary to kind of know what the bandwidth is and what you're worth,
Yeah.
and how to see if you can see how much the company is paying too, so you can see if it's even worth your time to reach out.
So good. Thank you, Denisha.
Most welcome.